The Bastard Munchen players start to walk out, but in the hall, Kaiser reminds Isagi that it's whoever scores the most goals that win, and tells him not to run away. After that, they get out on the field and meet up with the Ubers. The Ubers greet Isagi, and all of them are ready for payback, but the one who's the most fired up of them all is Baru, who goes to Isagi and straight up headbutts him. Isagi notices Baru's red highlights right off the bat and calls him out for it, calling him a narcissist. Even so, Baru says that he's proud over them and that he put them in to celebrate 100 million, while calling out Isagi for only being worth a pity of 50 million. But the Ubers players quickly come to ruin Baru's pride, as Aiku says that Baru suddenly wanted to pump himself up before facing Isagi. Baru quickly denies those claims and says that he suddenly wanted to go for a different look. However, Aryu and Nico add on with Aryu saying that he's like a girl before a date and Nico calling him Princess Baru. And because of that, they end up in a headlock by Baru, you know, just the typical Baru. Aiku then tells Isagi that the ones who'll be sitting on the Blue Lock's throne will be the Ubers, and that just sounds so cold. After that, we get into the Blue Lock Central Monitor Room, where the chairman of the Japan Football Union comes in and tells Ego that Blue Lock Television is amazing and that they are making tons of money. He shows Ego a bunch of mascots he made, but Ego just smashes them into his face. Ego asks if that was all he came for, and the chairman says that it was. However, he also reminds Ego about the promise he made when he approved Blue Lock Television, and I'm so curious to know what the promise was, and if you have any guesses, then please leave it down in the comments. Back on the pitch, Isagi is thinking to himself, saying that he knows what he needs to do, and that he put in the necessary work during training. All that's left is for him to prove that his theory works in the actual game. And with that, the kickstart of the match starts. Kaiser and Ness trades passes to start it off like always, and as they are doing so, Isagi is looking at them from the side, saying that Uber's formation is an ultra-defensive formation that's tightly packed in the center, and even if they manage to shake their marks in the 1v1, the other Uber's players will immediately press them with 2 or even 3 players. Kaiser comes to Nico, and Nico thanks Kaiser for making Isagi stronger. After that, Kaiser passes to Ness. However, Ness jumps over it and lets it roll over to Grim. After Grim has gotten the ball, that's when Ness starts to run all that he can, moving all the way to the front. It looks like the ball is going to Ness, but in reality, he's just the bait for a much bigger fish, which of course is Kaiser, who's currently battling Nico. Isagi is amazed that they were able to break Uber's formation by making Ness make a run from the midfield. However, as the ball falls to Kaiser, another one appears. He cuts off the pass with pinpoint accuracy, and that's when we get to know that it's the heartbeat of Uber's defense, and also a next-generation World 11 by the name of Don Lorenzo the Ace Eater. Isagi says that Lorenzo managed to instantly catch on to Kaiser's unpredictable attack, and then positioned himself perfectly so that he could shut it down in one move, calling Lorenzo's vision, positioning, and physical ability all top-notch. Kaiser tells Lorenzo to stop laughing, and that every time he shows off those golden teeth of his, it pisses Kaiser off. Lorenzo ignores that and asks Kaiser if he's worth more than 300 million yen if he managed to shut Kaiser down. Kaiser just calls him a creepy, gold-toothed loan shark who only seeks people as money, which Lorenzo responds with a quote saying that there's nothing in this world that money can't buy, showing us his obsession with money. Then Lorenzo starts to brutally just point at everyone saying how much they are worth. Kind of rude. However, after that, he asks them if they are ready for their counterattack. Lorenzo is about to pass a long cross-up on the field, however Kunigami comes to stop him, but ends up with broken ankles by Lorenzo, who beautifully gets away from him, only to find Raichi behind. Raichi tells him to just try and get past him, however Lorenzo kind of owns him by calling him worthless, as he's worth absolutely 0 before doing some crazy ninja moves to get behind Raichi. Lorenzo makes a one-touch with Sendo to get behind Yukimiya. Igarashi gets up from his seat and tells them to do something to stop Lorenzo. On defense, the Ubers string together consecutive presses and funnel their opponent towards Lorenzo, who lies in wait on the back line, and as soon as Lorenzo steals the ball, they make a switch. This makes it into a flexible system where Nico drops back to play centre-back while Lorenzo participates in the attack. They use their large number of players to their advantage to attack all at once and create a long-range zombie counter-attack. Lorenzo goes into a shooting stance and baits that guy that I forgot the name of. Corona goes to stop him, but Hiroi thinks that it's a mistake, and that the second they focus too much on stopping Lorenzo, they lose track of the one player who absolutely thrives in these situations, which of course is the king himself, Baru Shuei. Hiroi says Baru and Lorenzo together make a system where the two kings of offense and defense combine forces, saying that this is Uber's goal-scoring formula. However, before the ball can even get to Baru, someone stops it. And who else would it be if not Isagi Yoichi? Isagi takes the ball and makes some really cool slide on the ground, but he says that it's nice to finally see the trick behind his hat trick before saying that he will be taking the ball. Even Lorenzo is shocked that he's only worth 50 million. Isagi now has the ball. While running away from Baru, Isagi says that his body is now able to keep up a lot better with his thought. We can assume that Isagi went through some intense training with Kunigami before this match, as Isagi went to Kunigami for help some chapters ago. After that, we get these incredible panels with pieces flying everywhere, and Isagi saying that it's time to score of the counterattack. And who else would assist Isagi if it weren't for our favorite shark boy Corona, who alongside Isagi trades passes. Yukimiya is looking at the duo from afar as he says that attack with a counterattack of their own. With Lorenzo so high up the field, the Ubers still haven't organized their defense, and right now, Isagi and Corona is able to steamroll through the field. It seems like Isagi has really worked hard to improve for this match, because his passing drills with Corona have really paid off. However, Isagi will get into some trouble, as Yukimiya says that he will change his target to him, and tells him to not take any hard feelings as this is their team's philosophy, devouring each other to create chemical reactions. However, Yukimiya is once again catching another L as Isagi uses Yukimiya to get behind one of the Uber's defender. Yukimiya compliments Isagi and says that his dribblings have drastically improved. However, it's more than that, because to get past the incoming defender, Isagi deliberately used Yukimiya as bait. Isagi finally has the thing which has been holding him down, a body to maximize his vision. As Isagi is running away, Yukimiya says that he is still evolving and that it's expected of his rival. After that, we see Kaiser, who has his eyes on Isagi and is probably thinking of a way to steal the ball away, but that quickly goes into ruin as Lorenzo blocks him. And I find it so funny that it's almost more players of Bastard Munchen who is trying to get the ball from Isagi than the Ubers. After that, we finally get to see Nico, and I wish the author showed him more because I love his character. Anyway, he says that since Lorenzo is marking Kaiser, he won't be able to fall back, and if they get hit on the counter in this situation, their first priority as defenders isn't to steal the ball, but rather focus on slowing down their attack. A defensive formation designed to stop a quick counter-attack by slowing down the pace of the game. However, their plan gets quickly thrown to the side, as Isagi isn't slowing down, but instead charging in. And Nico quickly realizes that Isagi and Corona knew that they were going to defend like this, so they have no choice but to challenge them in a speed battle. Isagi slips between Nico and Aiku, and is now headed to the goal. Corona passes him, but just then, Isagi gets accompanied. And of course, it isn't anyone from the Ubers, but instead, his own teammate again. But this time, it's Ness who tells Isagi that in the event of Lorenzo getting hold of Kaiser, it's then his job to crush Isagi by any means necessary. He says that after studying Isagi's direct shot, he realized that it's trash, a defective shot that he can only shoot with his right foot. Ness has a smug look on his face as he says that once he knocks Isagi off balance, he's finished. But Isagi asks him to think again as he uses his left foot, creating a lefty shot which goes right into the net, shocking everyone. But most importantly, giving Bastard Munchen a 1-goal lead, the one who is most stunned of them all is Ness, who in shock asks Isagi what he did. After that, we can see different families all over the world being ecstatic over Isagi. However, I want to quickly focus in on this guy. If you have forgotten, then this was Isagi's first true fan. He came up to Isagi after the U20 match and asks him to shake his hand, which was so adorable. I really like how the Blue Lock authors keep on showing him in different places. It makes it feel much more special and reminiscing in some kind of way. Anyway, back to the game. Ness is almost too stunned to speak. His voice is shaky when he confronts Isagi. He tells Isagi that it's impossible, an unknown attacking pattern, and shot a direct shot with his left foot while there was no data on it. Ness is furious as he screams at Isagi, asking him what he's done in the last few days. After that, we go back 5 days in time, when Isagi went to Kunigami for help. Thanks to Igarashi, Isagi realized that his direct shot's weakness is that he can only shoot it accurately with his right foot. However, Kunigami became two-footed after he copied Noel Noah's physical abilities, and then Isagi asks him to teach him. Kunigami is a bit freaked out, calling Isagi clingy and disgusting. Isagi is still determined, so he follows him and asks Kunigami to let him train together so that Isagi can study his body. Kunigami stops and says absolutely not, and that Isagi will just end up destroying his specs. Kunigami tells him that he became two-footed to survive the wild card. Even so, it only worked because he had the necessary physical attributes to pull it off. If Isagi were to try copying Kunigami, he would end up bulking up in the wrong place and then lose his body's balance, meaning that there's only a greater chance that his performance will deteriorate. As Kunigami walks out, he tells Isagi to forget about shortcuts to become stronger, telling him that if he goes for that route, he's finished as a football player. Isagi thinks that Kunigami just warned him, saying that Kunigami is still a good guy after all, before going after him. As they are going around the corner, they meet up with Chigiri, who tells Kunigami that he finally found him. Isagi asks Chigiri what he's doing inside the German stratum, and Chigiri says that he came to see Kunigami, saying that he basically ghosted Chigiri during and after the game. While Chigiri is talking to Kunigami, he just walks away telling him to piss off, and that he doesn't have anything to tell him. However, Chigiri doesn't give up and speaks his mind. He says that he understands that Kunigami has changed. His playstyle and aura are totally different from before. However, it isn't only Kunigami who's changed. Chigiri tells him that from now on, he will be keeping an eye on Kunigami and asks him to do the same. But just then, another one sneaks his head around the door opening. It's Bachira who asks if this is some kind of class reunion. Before rushing over and saying that he will join in, he throws the football in Isagi's face. Bachira says that he saw the Bastard vs Munchen match on the monitor, saying that it was awesome and that they were all dripping ego juice from their body. Now I'm not even going to try speculating what ego juice is, so let's just leave that to Bachira. He continues telling them that Kunigami's goal and Isagi's movements were totally insane, not to mention how crazy Chigiri's goal was. Anyway, he originally came over to ask Kunigami if they could train together. While this is happening, we can see Isagi cooking up some nasty piece for him to evolve, as he looks at Bachira and Chigiri and says that it's not like they totally changed their playstyle. Rather, they made minor adjustments that further maximized and enhanced their strongest weapons. So maybe there's no need to change everything. Isagi was too hung up on being two-footed, while what he really wanted was to customize his weapon for his left foot. While Isagi continues to level up his primary weapon, the direct shot, and if he can manage to just acquire a secondary weapon, then it will complete everything. And after that, the four of them start a 2 vs 2 match against each other, which makes me so nostalgic back to the start of the series, when they really were acting like this. After that, we are right off the bat greeted by Aiku, who looks at Isagi amazed. He says that a lefty direct shot is amazing, calling it a cheat code. However, it's impossible to become two-footed in just a couple of days, meaning that Isagi's lefty shot has to have some kind of weakness to it. Lorenzo goes forward toward Isagi, pointing his finger at him. He says that he's taken a liking to Isagi and that he definitely isn't worth 50 million. He tells Isagi that he's now considered an ace like Kaiser, and the man himself, Isagi, coldly tells him to be sure not to pick the wrong guy to mark, ending it by calling Lorenzo a zombie bastard. After that, Lorenzo walks past him with a menacing aura, telling him to not get cocky after scoring one lucky goal, also making some kitty noises, and I'm all for it. He smiles and tells the Ubers that it's time to get to work, and with that, the game restarts. Isagi thinks that it's time to focus, try to steal the ball again, and go and score his second goal. But he quickly realizes that Lorenzo isn't moving up. As Nico and Sendo are trading passes, Isagi notices that the speed of their offense is slower, saying that they're prioritizing possession and slowly inching their way up the field. It's like they are waiting for the right time to flip their switch. However, Isagi says that as long as he can manage to keep track of Baru's heavy offensive, he can manage to devour them. Just then, we get a flashback to the first time the players met Snuffy. Both Nico and Sendo say that he's a very carefree and laid-back master. Before they start, Snuffy has a question prepared. He asks the players what football means to them. Sendo is first up and says that it's his dream. Ryu quickly comes after, saying that it's everything, and Aiku says that it's something he could bet his entire life on. But when Snuffy then asks what they would do if they couldn't turn pro, the players get silent. Snuffy continues, asking them what they would have if football was taken away from them, saying that there's nothing wrong with devoting yourself to football. Even so, injuries and setbacks do happen. So what would they do if one day, for some reason, they were no longer able to play football? They still stay silent, and Snuffy tells them that those who can't answer this question will forever be dreamers and amateurists. However, for a professional, winning is both a duty and an obligation. Through winning, they are able to earn money and put food on the table. And then he tells them what football really is, saying that football is a job, nothing less, nothing more. He tells them to think of clubs as corporations. Based on that, games are business deals, and the players are employees. Snuffy then says that he's taken the liberty and time to study the data of every single player. Everything from the game plan, offense, defense, and situational football, and all of the various strategies now lay right in front of them. Sendo is right off the bat ecstatic, saying that it's amazing. Meanwhile, Aiku asks Snuffy if he managed to come up with all of these strategies himself. He did, and says that if they remember all the strategies he came up with and execute them flawlessly, they will win. After that, we see that the players under Snuffy's command are almost acting like soldiers. Before we leave the flashback, Nico has some additional comments to make. He says that all of Snuffy's strategies make full use of their individual capabilities. Snuffy even prepared different variations depending on the lineup. Then we get a rare panel of Nico showing his eyes. Let's be honest, these panels are becoming like rare Pokemon cards that you have to capture. Anyway, he says that if they manage to survive here, then they will without a doubt be exponentially stronger, which pumps out all of the Blue Lock players.